Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Dan Blanchard with the Travel in Time with Dan show. And today I am in White Plains, New York at the New York Supreme Court. Yep, it's right here. This is the Supreme Court that isn't the Supreme Court. It's actually not top of the heap. It's actually an entry-level trial court that's called the Supreme Court. But when you find out how influential this place is, you're going to say, oh, maybe it does make sense, right? If it was called the Supreme Court. It does make sense. So you can see it right over my shoulder, going up, going up. Wow, this place is simply amazing, right? The Supreme Court in White Plains, New York. All right, so what happened here? Well, the reason we're here for today with Travel in Time with Dan, where we mix travel with history and with leadership, and of course with me, Dan Blanchard. The reason we're here is because basically this is the court that built America, right? That built our country. This is the court, right? Now, we're in New York, and you may be aware that New York is considered to be a very transactional place, right? It's got a long, long history of being a transactional place, being the financial capital of the world, right? And one of the things that made that happen was its unique geography, right? The New York has a natural harbor that sits right on the Atlantic coast and was part of the Erie Canal system, right? That fed it with the goods from the Great Lakes, came out right here, produced a lot of wealth. And of course, you know, you got the immigration centers that were here, Ellis Island, the immigrants that were coming through here, working and building up New York and making New York rich and great. But this court system, this court right behind me, that's Martin Luther King right there, right? This court made a huge, huge difference, okay? Now, I'll get to that in just a moment. Now, New York has, as I said, has always been transactional, and we can talk about all the way back the American Revolution. Now, here's what's happening. It wasn't just Americans, patriots versus the redbacks, redcoats, tyranny, and all that stuff. It was actually merchants trying to feed their kids, right? Trying to keep their businesses. So what am I talking about? In the American Revolutionary War, many, many people in New York were super hesitant to join the New England crowd of those patriots to go against England, because war meant disruption. War meant possibly losing your business, right? Maybe not being able to feed your family. There were a lot of New Yorkers that wanted stability, and England was probably the best way to have that stability. Now, England's going to take over New York. They're going to run George Washington, his Continental Army, right out of New York, right? And they're going to make this their North American headquarters for quite a few years. I think maybe like 7 years, right? And during that time of stability, there's a lot of profit, a lot of money being made right here in New York, right? And they like that. And at the end of the war, when the English are packing up and going home, there's no guarantee that they're going to leave New York. I mean, things have been good here. Washington's sweating it out, going, gosh, I hope the English leave and I don't have to try to force them to leave, right? And they did. They eventually packed up and left, and everybody was like, that was a close one, right? The English left, and we didn't have to try to force them to leave. But here at this court, right? At this court, you had the making of our country, the making of America. So what happened here? Well, the laws, right? The laws here at this court caused the railroads to be financed, caused industries to be expanded, right? Banks to be expanded, banks to be able to loan money and have people and businesses and entrepreneurs to have access to capital, right? You had credit, you had insurance happening, right? All here, you had trade taking place, right? And I got to tell you, there's a large number of the Fortune 500 companies headquartered right here, right down the road from this courthouse. Again, it's just amazing how big it is, right? Right here. And this courthouse has heard some of the most complex financial cases in the world have started right here, right? And in New York, because of that, you got a thing of legal precedent taking place right here in the White Plains at this courthouse in New York, where the rest of the country would follow it, and then also internationally it would happen, right? And the predictability is the magic word here. Businesses love the predictability of the law, the legal law, the contracts of what they're getting involved in. And if it goes to court, they want to know, right? They want it to be predictable. They want to know what's going to happen. And what they think is going to happen usually is what happens, all right? They can get stolen. The money doesn't get taken from them in some crazy twist, right? It doesn't happen. You get that legal precedent. You get the predictability here. You get the trust and transactions, the commerce, the contracts, the banking, the property law, right? The corporate law, the enforceable agreements, and it goes on and on and on. And that's what people like, right? They like contracts. They can kind of predict, and they want to know that they can kind of predict what's going to happen with their money, right? Now, it's so amazing here that a lot of corporations, a lot of businesses, they write around not just New York, but all around, right? They write in their contracts that they want this contract to be governed according to the New York laws. Is written into contracts all over the place. It's because the New York laws here, the finance laws here, are some of the most sophisticated, the most fair, and the most intelligent laws in the country / the world. And that's what they want, all right? They want that institutional trust. That is huge. And now, as if these guys weren't already great enough, they don't rest on the laurels. They're even better. In 1995, they created a commercial division here where every single year, every single month, every single day, they challenge themselves to be even better and better and better. And this is some of the most sophisticated financial law in this country and the world. Now, listen, I know I'm talking a lot about finance, money, and all that stuff that makes the world go round, coming right out of here, White Plains, this New York Supreme Court. But it's not just the money, believe it or not, right? The New York Central Railroad Company versus White Supreme Court case was huge for workers' comp. And that came right out of here, right? Started right here, all right? Right out of here, up here in White Plains, New York, this court building over my shoulder. They challenged the de facto segregation of the North in housing to show that segregation wasn't just a Southern problem, right? It was right up here too, right? And they challenged it, and they did a lot about it right out of here with the housing, right? Some of you guys have heard of the whole wall of separation between church and state. Well, that happened right here, right? In the schools. The case came right out of here, this New York Supreme Court, with the schools up here in the North and across the country. Now, if you have not been to White Plains, New York, this is a really cool place to come and check out, sort of like big city living in a small city, sort of. A really, really cool place. You should definitely come travel up here, check it out. I've shared a whole lot of history, and you come down here and you'll find a whole lot more than even what I shared with you. But I also, I always share leadership. So what is the leadership here? The leadership here, I would say, is that stability is a leadership currency, right? This place has based its reputation and its success on stability, predictability, right? Gosh, it's a leadership currency, no doubt about it. Now listen, I really appreciate the time you've spent with me today, with my Travel and Time with Dan, where we mix travel with history and with leadership, and of course with me over here at the New York Supreme Court, which is really not a Supreme Court, but just it's a trial level entry court. But after I think, learning what we learned today, maybe it should be called the Supreme Court with its outsized influence here in New York and across the country and across the world. So I really appreciate the time you spent with me with Travel and Time with Dan. I'm going to be back real soon with another great episode, and I look forward to seeing you again. Y'all take care now.